All right. So we're gonna start from the very beginning. Okay. We're trying to place the current wall system. What knowledge do I have now? We have the knowledge of what is the height of the current wall system. Okay. The height is 9 feet 8 inches. We get that height from our section view, which is A3.0, right? So you have the section view right here. It's 9 feet 8 inches. Okay. The second knowledge we have is according to our floor plan, we have the curtain wall goes into small sections. The first section we're trying to deal with here is 1 through 3. The second section of the curtain wall is 3 through 5. Then just keep going, right? Now, what we need to do before we start the actual modeling of the curtain wall system is let's lay out the curtain wall first. Where does it end? Where does it start? Where does it end for each individual section of curtain wall systems? So what I prefer to do is let's mark up those start, ends first. Then we're gonna draw the curtain wall system one by one. Okay. So what we need to do is we're gonna rely on something we call the model line tool to create some reference lines for ourselves. Okay. So now, um, curtain wall system is a type of architectural component. So for the past several weeks, we have been working on structural systems. We all understand if you want to model structural systems, it's always going to be modeling from its top to its bottom. In this case, we're modeling an architectural component. So this time we actually going to model from the bottom of the curtain wall to the top of it, right? So the bottom of the curtain wall is finished floor. So we're gonna actually go to this finished floor level, which is 01FF00, and also make sure that you are actually on the floor plan. The reason I say this is because sometimes you don't really scroll your project browser up enough, you end up actually getting here, and you come into here and you will have a hard time to get everything right because this is the ceiling plan. Remember that we always model on the floor plan, except for ceilings and the lighting fixtures, etc., which we're going to talk about later on. So now we're going to actually go ahead and actually model our curtain wall system here by starting placing those reference lines. The reference line will clearly mark where the curtain will start, where the curtain will end. So first thing first, we come in, we go to our architecture tab there, and we are looking for this model line right there. Okay, the model line is right here. Now, the first section, the first section of the curtain will start is actually 4 feet 6 inches away from grid line 1. So what am I going to do is I'm going to just throw this line in. I don't even care where it is at this moment. So then what I'm going to do is I'm actually click this model line here. I'm actually going to rely on our temporary dimension, right? Remember that temporary dimension? So this end is actually not measuring the grid line, it's measuring the wall center. So all you have to do is grab that little blue dot right there and move that to the reference line, grid line 1. So then you can change the dimension to be 4 feet 6 inches to move the green model lines, okay, in place. So that place, this line, and it intersects with this point here, which will mark up our starting point of our actual curtain wall system. Now, there might be another question in terms of, we know the starting point of a curtain wall system here, we know its height, but where, along which line we should actually start drawing the curtain wall system? So that's actually a question we need to ask ourselves as well. So if you go back to our section view, A3.0, you notice that curtain wall system sits right on the edge of the slab. Okay, that's right on the edge of the slab. The edge of slab, remember that edge of slab is 1 feet away. That's actually where the grid line is. Okay, so that's why we're actually going to rely on this intersection right here as our starting point of our curtain wall system. The only thing you need to pay attention to is the curtain wall system, okay, itself has its thickness. The thickness I was referring to is not actually the thickness of the glass. Instead, the glass sits right in the middle of the curtain wall, and the thickness of the curtain wall was actually determined by its mooling, right? By the bottom mooling here. The moulings typically is 5-inch wide. So if that curtain wall is sitting in the middle, that literally tells you that's 2.5 inch away from the edge of the slab. Okay, so when you actually place the curtain wall, you need to apply like offsets 2.5 inch away from the edge of the slab. That's where you actually need to place the curtain wall system. At this point of time, don't worry about it. Let's go ahead and place those reference lines first. Then we'll start to place the curtain wall system. And then we also need to make some changes to the curtain wall we're going to use in Revit as well. So go back to the Revit model. Okay, so this is actually the first section of model line reference line. Let's go ahead and do another one. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to place, okay, one on this side here, and we're going to do another one here, okay? But remember, this two, okay, model lines on this side, this one's supposed to be 2 foot 6 inches away from that reference line, and this one supposed to be 2 foot, okay, 6 inches away from the reference grid line number 2. Well, actually, you know what? Actually, I made a mistake here. So our actually ending point of the first section of the current was supposed to be here, along grid line 3. But that's okay. We can move those two lines to grid lines 3 fairly easily. So how do I do that? I choose this grid line. I hold my control key down, choose this grid line as well. Then I'm actually going to move, click on the move, and I choose the starting reference line and move to the ending reference line. So that will move the two grid line to grid line number 3. Okay. So if you do not see that, let me do that again. So originally I do a Control Z. I mistakenly put those two green lines next to the grid line number 2, which is not the case, right? Remember that our control systems actually is starting from 1 and end along grid line number 3, not 2, okay? So I need to move those two green model lines to grid line 3. So how do you do that? You choose, you left click, select this first green model line, hold your control key down, select the green line again. So then you're trying to move this to the right place. So we're going to use the move command. I'm going to choose reference 2, okay, reference grid line 2, and then move on top of reference grid line 3. That will move this two green line here. Hopefully that answers the question. If you cannot figure it out, that's fine. You know what we can do, we can delete that. We'll just do it again. You can just do model lines, and you can just put one model line on one side of reference grid line number 3, put another line next to grid line number 3, then you fine tuning its distance again here, supposed to be 2 foot 6 inches, and this side supposed to be same thing, 2 foot 6 inches as well. Okay. Anyway, so that's that model line here. Then we'll move on, right? We'll move on. Now look at the joins itself. Here says the next section of the grid line is supposed to be between the current one is supposed to be between grid line 3 and grid line 5. Okay, so we need to place two model lines on each side of grid line 5. So go ahead and go back to this and says, okay, grid line 5. Okay, now, since we already tried to teach you how to actually move those two grid lines to a different place, how about we actually copy those two model lines, right? The model lines, the distance from the model lines to the reference grid line is actually fixed. All we have to do is make sure we have one on grid line 5, we have another one, okay, we have another one on grid line 8, right? We have another one on grid line 9 and another grid line 11, okay? So we can actually copy those. So it's 5, 8, 9, 11, okay? So what we can do, still choose those two grid lines on each side of grid line number 3. We'll do a copy, right? We'll do a copy, okay? Do a copy. So because we're gonna actually copy them multiple times, So you might want to check the multiple as well. So how do you actually make sure that they will be copied exactly where they're supposed to? We're going to choose the starting point as grid line number 3 because we are actually going to copy those model lines from grid line to grid line. So we'll choose the grid line as a reference line. So click here once, move your mouse to 5, right? Make sure that your mouse is going horizontally. Then to grid line number 8, then to grid line number 9, then to grid line number 11. Okay, so that will save you some time there by copying. Okay, let's just save the project later. Okay, so that will give you the screen model lines as you go through. Now, the last green model line will be 4 feet 6 inches away from grid line 12. So you're going to do that last piece, right? Okay, so then that distance is going to be, make sure that you're measuring from the grid line, not the wall, okay? You're measuring from the grid line, okay? So it's supposed to be 4 foot 6 inches. So that will give you that location of that grid line, the last green model line as a reference line. So now you have the layout for all the curtain wall systems, okay? So do we have any questions here for laying out the model lines as reference line for our placement of the curtain wall system? If you have any questions, raise your hand or actually just type in you have a question. Otherwise, we're going to move on. Everybody's following through okay? Great. Great. Okay, now let's get started, right? So we know that the curtain wall, the first section of curtain wall is going to start from this intersection of the reference line to this intersection of this reference line, okay? Again, sometimes you find those colors quite annoying. You can actually turn that off by going to hidden line, okay? It's easier to look at, so that intersection would be a little bit more obvious, right? Again, it's here, the view style, you change that to a hidden line, okay? Now, I did mention something in regard to the exact location of that curtain wall system we're trying to place them. Sheets S3.1, 3.0. The edge of that mulling is going to be along the edge of the slab. Okay. However, the piece of glass is in the middle. If I know that this measurement is 5 inches, then where the glass stands is going to be 2.5 inches away from the edge of the slab. I hope that's clear. Okay. Another thing we need to change actually is when you actually draw the first section of the curtain wall system, we are going to draw from 0 to 9 feet 8 inches. However, because we do not have a 9 feet 8 inch level line, right? You do not have a floor that is called 9 feet 8 inches. So technically speaking, you do not have a top constraints defined so far. So we need to actually define our own top constraints. So nevertheless, let's get started first. So curtain wall is under wall, okay? And you would choose from the type selector. Okay, you click on the wall command, then you choose the type selector, and the curtain wall system we're going to use is going to be curtain wall 1. Somebody may ask, why don't you use storefront? Because it's called a storefront. Well, the reason for that is the storefront has an evenly distributed panel set up. And in our case, all the panels, they have different distances. That's kind of the reason why we can't do that, okay? So let's choose the curtain wall 1, which basically is just a giant piece of glass, okay? That's really it, okay? So then again, like I said, we are actually going to draw that have offsets of 2.5 inch. So you want to actually apply that 2.5 inch offsets. So that way you know where to get started, right? So it's actually going to be from here, okay, 2.5 inch offsets, okay? And now our starting point is 0, 0, but, okay, our top constraints needs to be configured. So the base offsets, there is supposed to be 0 because you're not actually joining this curtain wall 9 foot 8 inches above ground. You're joining that phone 0, 0. But instead, you need to go to a top level. In our case, we really don't really have a top level that is 9 foot 8 inches. Instead, we either got 0, 0 or actually have 14 feet 8 inches. So this is up to you. If you wanted to use 0, 0, okay, in order to avoid 0 heights, because you're starting at a 0, you cannot end at a 0. Otherwise, the wall will be 0 height. So if you choose the 0, 0 to be the top constraints, you need to raise the top offsets to be 9 foot 8 inches. That's where the 9 foot 8 inches is going to work, right? That's one way of doing it. Or you say, I'd rather go to 14/8, okay, 14 feet 8 inches. But that's actually taller than where you was supposed to go to. So in that case, you say, well, I have 14/8 set up as my top constraints, but my real height of the wall is 9 foot 8 inches. The difference is 5 feet. So you need to apply a minus 5 feet offset in this case. But either way, it's going to give you the height of 9 foot 8 inches of a curtain wall. So it's your preference, okay? I usually go with the positive offset, so I rather choose a lower top constraint level and apply this 9 foot 8 inch top offsets in this case. You will get 9 foot 8 inches, okay? So I just want to explain how do you actually set up the top constraints, because the base constraint is fixed, right? The curtain wall starts from the finished floor. That's why we choose 0, 0 as its base constraint. Now, what we need to determine is actually the top constraints. So 9 foot 8 inches is the height you're looking for. Okay. With that being said, with the offsets being set as 2.5 inch, now we are good to go to complete our first section of curtain wall. So you're going to join at this intersection, starting from this intersection and go to the next intersection right here, right? Okay. Now we have done our first section of curtain wall system. Now, what is interesting, you probably realize, is after you place the first section of the curtain wall system, you choose the curtain wall itself, you realize, okay, everything works out perfectly, that you see that center line of the curtain wall system is 2.5 inch above the grid reference line, which is perfect, right? The only problem is this piece of glass. You see that piece of glass right there? The piece of glass is actually offset, okay? It's off away from the center line, which means that piece of glass is not exactly standing in the middle of the wall. Why that's the case? Well, it is because the system family of the curtain wall 1, they set up the curtain wall to be that way, which is kind of odd, but that's okay. We can actually fix that, okay? You can actually fix that. So what you're going to do is you are going to actually choose that piece of glass and change the glass offset to be 0 away from the center line. So how do you actually choose the piece of glass? As you see here, when I move my mouse on top of that curtain wall, I can only select the wall, the whole thing. I can't pick the individual glass itself, right? Okay. So what you need to do is basically, let's move a mouse on top of that wall. Okay, just move your mouse on top of it. Don't do anything, just move your mouse on top of the wall and hit the tab key for me. Okay. Once you hit the tab key, okay, T-A-B, tab key on your keyboard, then you see that glass will be highlighted. Then you click on the glass itself. Okay. So that's actually the panel you're looking at. So what you need to do is move this glass to the center. So in this case, you click on edit type, okay? At this point, let's see, something happened here. Give me a little time. I think that the program is trying to respond in this case. Let's see. All right, let's do that again. Okay. Okay. It looks like it has some issues here. Let's try a different approach. Deselect that current wall. I'm not sure if you have the same problem, but I won't be able actually to edit that location of the glass from this way. Let's try a different approach. look at the edit type. I'm not sure if it's actually showing up somewhere else or actually it's simply not showing up at all. Let's see. Do you all have the same problem like I do here? I can't edit type at this point. If you have the same problem, let me know. If you don't, um, what you need to do is actually you need to change the offsets of the piece of glass from what's been setting up there to 0. So at this point of time, I don't know why I can't click on edit. It's like something is missing. Let me actually close a few windows here so things are getting better. Okay. All right. So technical issues like this do happen sometimes. So it's not showing up that editing window. All right, let me try a different place if actually edit type is going to work. Okay, it looks like it's not working universally. So it might have some issues with my edit type tab there. Not sure exactly what it is, but okay, we'll come back to this then. So, but just keep your, okay, make a note here that we need to come back and fix this problem because the glass of that curtain wall is not aligned in the middle. So that's something we need to fix later on. I probably need to install updates or something, but we'll figure that out tonight. We're gonna actually have that covered on Thursday. But anyway, we just have to make sure that we understand that part, okay? Now, you would replace the first section of a curtain wall. What does it look like? So you go to your 3D view and you look at this giant piece of glass. Okay, so you say, well, it really doesn't look like a curtain wall yet. Well, that's correct because currently all you have done so far is you have been actually placing a piece of glass. Okay, the piece of glass is not the whole thing. It's only the piece of glass. You have to actually put all the other curtain grids in. You have to actually put the mullions, which are the structural framing system for the curtain wall here. So what we need to do next is actually trying to lay out the curtain wall, right? Lay out the curtain grids. So how do we actually lay out? If you go to our drawings a little quick right here and go to our A2.0, and when I say layout of the curtain wall, I mean how do we actually split those curtain wall into small panels, right? Into small panels. So then we can actually establish the curtain grids and be able to apply those mullions to its top and the edge. Okay. So this is what I'm trying to do. Lay out those. Okay. Now, a couple questions we need to pay attention to is for this first section of curtain wall system here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 subsections. Each subsection will be separated from adjacent subsection with this little panel in the middle. So don't, okay, ignore this little panel here because it's quite critical. So this panel, again, this is not just a gap. This is actually, there's a small panel, a small piece of glass right here in the middle that separates, okay, each curtain wall subsection from each other. So there's a subpanel here, there's a small panel here, there's also a small panel right there, okay? So what is the width of this small panel? You can't not tell from here. You need to actually go back to our A1.1, okay, which is right here. The gap, do you see that little, let's actually delete this thing here. You see that gap there? That little panel, separate the two subpanels, that's 8-inch. Same thing, 8-inch here, 8-inch here. So the 8-inch is actually the thickness that captures those partition wall, which we're going to talk about later on. Okay, so that's the 8-inch. So each subsection will be separated by those 8-inch panels. Okay, now what we need to determine is Location of those curtain grids and separate those panels with those 8-inch gaps there. Okay, go back to A2.0. So what do I mean by curtain grids is for each molding we have here, the molding is the actual stretch components, but in order to know where to place the molding, we need to use some reference line. Those particular reference line we use for curtain wall system is called a curtain grid, which is right here under architecture and curtain grid. The curtain grid is going to help us to lay out, okay, the curtain wall system. As you see, if you move your mouse on top of that curtain grid command, there is a little animation showing you how to lay out those curtain grids. Our job is to lay out the curtain grid exactly the way it is showing up here on the drawings, right? So we'll lay out those, okay? Then put that molding on and put those panels into each individual subsections, okay? So now the question becomes, how do we determine the curtain grid location? It's quite obvious. Using this one as an example, right? Using this one as an example. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, okay, of those sub panels here. However, the difficult part here is, although you know approximately those two are supposed to be equal width, those two needs to be supposed to be equal width, and this door, this is actually a door, it's a curtain door, sits right in the middle. So then question becomes, how can I actually lay out this curtain grid, and this curtain grid, etc., etc. Okay, determining where we should put the curtain grids and how we actually lay out the panel. So to do this, we need to understand how do we actually separate this panel. If I explain in a way like, first we need to determine, okay, first we have to determine where those edge curtain grid is supposed to be. Second, we need to put the door in the middle. Then we need to figure out how wide the door is, so that way we can actually fix this curtain grid, this curtain grid. Then the last curtain grid is going to be in the middle of those two curtain grids. So that's the logic we're going to follow through. Okay, so first determine the edge curtain grid, then put the door in the middle, and put two curtain grids on each side of the door, then separate the rest of the curtain wall evenly using the curtain grid here and here. Okay, so let's go back to our A1.1. We see very clearly, right? We see very clearly. This curtain wall here have an 8-inch distance right here and an 8-inch distance right here. So our first job is actually trying to figure out, okay, where those 8-inch panels is going to be and where the edge of 8-inch curtain grid is going to be. Okay, so in order to do that, the best place is actually not, okay, the best place is not the finished floor, because you can't lay out the curtain grid in the finished floor, okay? And it will be actually kind of difficult to lay that out in 3D view as well, because you do not have the reference to the grid line adjacent. The best place to do this work actually is going to be a south elevation view, which we don't really mention too much in our previous work. So this time, this is the first time we actually model something on a elevation view. So if you could actually go ahead and double click on south elevation view, come here, and you'll see there is this confirmation wall at the back, and you see the color of the piece of glass is actually a bluish color, and you see some section views here. So this section views don't really actually help at all in this case. Let's go ahead and delete those section views. You don't need them, okay? Let's delete those section views here. Okay, the piece of glass have a greenish color, have a bluish color, which is actually nice to have, but it's not that helpful because it's actually kind of like distracting. So let's turn that color off to make that to be just a white piece of glass in this case in front of you. It'll be way much easier to work with. Okay, so that's that. Then we start to lay out the curtain grids. Okay, so again, like I said, let's go back to A2.0. Let's lay out the first part of the curtain grid. So obviously we have grid line 1, 2, 3 is already there, right? They're already there. They're will be actually used as reference line at the very beginning. So now the first grid line I'd like to use is going to be grid line number 2 because I know that there is a panel right here. Grid line number 2 goes through the middle sub panel right here, and the edge of that small panel is on each side of the grid line. Grid line number 2. So if the panel width is 8 inches, then because that grid line number 2 goes through the middle of that small panel, so the edge of those middle panel here is supposed to be 4 inches on each side. So that's my first thing, and what I would like to do is lay out those 2 cutting grids here. So what are you going to do? Come to Revit, okay? We're actually going to model the cutting grid along grid line number 2 first. So go ahead and go to your top of your screen and choose cutting grid from here. Okay. So then what you need to do is when you try to place a vertical cutting grid, your mouse is actually following the horizontal edge of your cutting wall system, okay, of your cutting wall. So I want to put one cutting grid on this side. I want to put another cutting grid on this side. The exact location doesn't matter because we can't snap into a 4-inch distance very accurately. So that's okay. We just put those 2 cutting grids on each side of grid line number 2. Then we're going to use the temporary dimension to fine tune its location. So click on that and move that blue down, to the middle of that grid line number 2, and you know that's supposed to be 4 inches. And also on the other side, this line is supposed to be 4 inches. Okay, so that's the first 2 cutting grids you lay out. Okay, so you have this 4 inches away from it, this 4 inches away from it. So that way the panel, it will be 8 inches together, right? Okay, so that's the first 2 cutting grids you're gonna lay out. Then the next one, right? The next one here. So how far away is that panel away from cutting grid grid line number 2? So this section here, you have this little small panel right here, which is 19 feet 6 inches away from grid line number 2. So what I'm gonna do is, I don't really have a cutting grid here. However, at least we can pretend that we have one here. Then we'll place those 2 cutting grids on each side of that pretended grid line. So then we can delete the middle one, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pretend that we have a cutting grid exactly 1956 inches away from grid line number 2. Then we can place those 2 cutting grids on each side of that 4 inches away from it. Then we delete that middle one. Okay, so this is actually the process. So we're gonna go ahead and place the cutting grid again. We can just randomly drop it here. It doesn't really matter where it is at this point. What we're gonna do next is click on that cutting grid and make sure that distance is measured between grid line number 2, not the edge of that panel. So here, so it's the middle, which is the grid line number 2. Grid line number 2. So this distance has to be 19 foot 6 inches. So that will give you, the center of this panel. But that's not what you want. You don't want that center of the panel. You need a 2 cutting grid on the edge of the panel. So what you need to do is you're going to place 2 other cutting grid, on each side of that cutting grid. This distance is supposed to be 4 inches. Same with this one. Then you can delete the middle one, This one can be deleted, So now, how about the other side, right? How about the other side? Same thing here. You see that grid line number 2 is here, but this panel, small panel that separates those 2 subsections of a curtain wall is here. That is 15 feet away from it. Again, I cannot directly determine the location of the edge of that panel, which is those 2 cutting grids, but I can always place that pretended cutting grid first in place, then put 4 inches on this side, 4 inches on the other side, then I delete the one which I don't need, right? So do the same exact thing. Place a cutting grid right here. It doesn't really matter where it is. Then you measure from, not from the edge of that panel, but from cutting grid 2. Grid line number 2. So then this distance has to be 15 feet. Okay. So once that's determined, then what you're going to do is you're going to place a cutting grid on each side of this cutting grid. And that distance, again, has to be 4 inches. Same thing with this one. It's going to be 4 inches. And then you delete this reference cutting grid, which is the one you don't need. So that way now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 subsection of the cutting wall determined, right? So that's only the starting point. So now if you go back to your panel, cutting wall, we had this section determined, this section determined, this section determined, and that section determined. Now our job is trying to further, okay, within this subsection here, further determine each individual panel, okay, where those cutting grids are going to be. Now, in order to do that, students were asked, I had a students previously asked, can we actually calculate each individual panels, how wide they are? I would say yes, but it's very difficult to do that because first you get to know, okay, what is the door width? Because for instance, using this as an example, this total distance is 96 inches, okay? And the middle of the door is right here. So then you need to subtract that 4 inches from here, 4 inches from here, then subtract that door width, then divide it 4 times, right? Okay, so it's very cumbersome. So what we're gonna do is we're not gonna actually care about exactly how wide it is. We care about its location. So what I mean by that is, as long as we know that, okay, the door is sitting in the middle, and then what's got left on the left side of the door and the right side of the door needs to be split evenly. Then we don't care how exactly what the distance is. All we care to know is actually it is in the middle, okay? So now the question becomes, how wide are those doors in the curtain wall system, right? That's the question. What is the width of the door of the curtain wall systems? Those doors look all the same to me, okay? So it's this door, that door, that door. The only different door is probably this one, but it's actually two, okay? Those single doors. It's a double door, but the width is actually two of those single doors, okay? So does anyone remember typically on a set of drawings, where should we go to look for sizes of door? If you still remember, which sheets, which sheet has the door sizes? Anyone trying to help out? You can type your answer in your chat window. Where should we go to in order to look up the door sizes? Okay, no answers. Let's try A5.0, right? Usually that's where the doors window schedule is going to be. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, A5, excellent. So the curtain door is 3 foot wide, 7 feet tall, 1 3/4 inch thick. Okay, the double curtain door is 2 of those dimensions, right? So you see the 2, 3 by 7 doors. So that door in the unit B, the double door is supposed to be 6 feet. Okay, but for those regular doors, it's 3 foot by 7 foot by 1 3/4 inch thick. That's what's the size, the dimensions of the door. Okay, let's go back to A1.1. Now, we have the dimension now. Okay, we have the dimension right here, and which tells you this door is in the middle. The total door width is 3 foot. Okay, so on each side of that middle line here, it's 1 foot 6 inches on this side, 1 foot 6 inches on this side. Okay, So the reason I determine the center of the door is because I want to split the door, use the door as the center point of that panel, then determine the location of this cutting grade as well as this cutting grade. Okay. So what are you gonna do? We're gonna actually create another cutting grade first, right in the middle. Do you see that? Revit actually snaps into the middle part automatically. When you have a panel, you're trying to place a cutting grade, you can always easily snap into the middle, okay, of that panel. So 7 feet 7 inches on one side, 7 feet 7 inches on the other side, which looks great. I place this kind of grade, but this kind of grade you don't need it. Okay, you need this moment because you want to use that as the center of the door. So again, we know that the width of the door is 1 foot, 3 feet wide. So on each side from the center, measure from the center, is supposed to be 1 foot 6 inches on one end and 1 foot 6 inches on the other end. So this is the center of the door. The door is 3 feet wide. So on this side is supposed to be 1 foot 6 inches. On this side is supposed to be 1 foot 6 inches. That will give you the distance from this curtain grade to this curtain grade to be 3 feet. Okay. So then again, we don't really care. Okay. We don't really care the actual measurement of this panel, how wide it is. We don't care about how wide it is. We care about those two panels are evenly distributed in terms of its width. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually place another cutting grade and automatically snap to the center. Same thing with the side. Then don't forget to delete this extra cutting grade in the middle of the door because it's not supposed to be there. But it does help me to lay out those two cutting grades. Then I split the rest of the panels evenly using this cutting grade and this cutting grade. Okay. So you can imagine for the rest of that, we're going to try the same methodology, right? So you put that center of the door grid, cutting grade first, then determine this cutting grade location, this cutting grade location, then split the rest of the panels evenly using this cutting grade, split the rest of those panels evenly using this cutting grade. Okay, same exact methodology. So try that again. So cutting grade right in the middle. Okay, make sure you snap to the middle. It's 9 foot 5 inches on each side. So then you have 1 foot 6 inches on one side of the door, and the other side 1 foot 6 inches on the other side of the door. Then split the rest of that panel evenly, and do the same thing on this side. Then don't forget to delete that center of that door right there. Okay. So then keep working on it. Cutting grade again, center of that panel, and determine the edge of the door. The edge of the door. Then split that evenly, and delete the middle one, which you don't need. The last piece is a little different because it's such a small section here. So instead of actually dividing into 5 pieces, they only have this as 3 pieces. So basically all you have to do is determine the center of the door, then you determine the edge of the door, and then you're done, right? So let's do that. Cutting grade right in the middle, then 1 foot 6 inches. So this one is a little bit tricky because it does snap very well, but it can zoom in a little bit so it actually help you uh, snap better. Okay, then you delete the middle one. So that's really it. Okay, that's it. So that's the layout of the cutting grade, vertical cutting grade, right? Okay, so are we all still following? Any questions so far in terms of layout, those vertical cutting grades? Does everyone still follow through? If you have a question, raise your hand, like I said. Okay, no question? All right, let's move on then. Okay, so after placing those vertical grades, our job is not done yet. The reason I say this is because remember that previously I said we still have those bottom grades here, right? Each vertical panel here was split into 2 parts, a top part and a bottom part. And the height of this bottom part, we actually already figured out, right? Based upon page or sheets A3.0, that bottom part is supposed to be 2 feet 1 inch tempered glass above ground. So we need to actually get that 2 feet 1 inch cutting grid placed as well. Now, however, the problem is you have some places where you have a door. When you have a door, let's see 2.0. Okay. When you have a door here, you don't really have a bottom part. Instead, you have a top panel above the door. So what it means is actually we need to place those bottom grids first. Then we also need to place those individual top curtain grids above the door as well. So how do we actually place the curtain grids here? Obviously, I don't really want to place them one by one. I'd like to place them at one time and subtract the ones where we don't need those curtain grids. Okay. There's one unique feature of a cutting grid, which is kind of interesting. I think a lot of students make mistakes previously is because they're not aware of this unique feature of the cutting grids. So let's do the bottom cutting grids first, then we actually explain how that works. So go back to your model, and we're going to place a cutting grid that is horizontal. So previously, we've all been placing vertical cutting grids. When you actually place a vertical cutting grids, your mouse is actually following the horizontal edge of the wall. But if you want to place a horizontal cutting grid, your mouse is going to follow the vertical edge of the wall. So that's kind of interesting. It's a perpendicular relationship. Okay, so now the location of this horizontal cutting grid is supposed to be 2 foot 1 inch above ground. So sometimes it's very difficult for you to get to exact 2 foot 1 inch. You may get 2 foot, you may get 2 foot 6 inches. But that's okay, like I said, just go ahead and place it right there. Okay. Once you place them, what you're going to do is you are going to click on that dimension, the temporary dimension, and change that to 2 spacebar 1, so you can get 2 foot 1 inch. Okay, so click on modify. Now, like I said, when you place this cutting grid, okay, you will see it's been placed completely across the whole panel. That's not what you want though, because you don't want a bottom grid here where you have a door. You don't want a bottom grid here when you have this small separation panel, okay, right there. And same thing with this door, same thing with this panel here, same thing with this door, same thing with this panel, and same thing with this door. So what are you gonna do then, right? What are you gonna do then? Like I said previously, I said, yeah, you can actually, you can place them first thing, actually trying to subtract those places where you don't need a cutting grid. So the question becomes, how do we subtract, right? How do we subtract a cutting grid? So this is what I say a cutting grid has a very unique situation. A unique feature is this. When you actually go ahead after you place a cutting grid, you select that cutting grid again by click on that, select that. Okay. So when you select the cutting grid, you will notice towards the top of your screen, under the modify cutting wall grids command, there's something called add remove segments. Okay, so this is the unique part of the cutting grid. If you move your mouse on top of it and just trying to look at the animation that is trying to show you, okay, so you can actually add or remove individual segments of your cutting grids after you place the cutting grids. Okay, that what I mean by that is if I go ahead and activate that command, click on that. So because currently we have cutting grids across the whole panel. So what you need to do is to subtract the ones you don't need. In this case, we don't need this one because we have a door there. So you can go ahead and click your mouse there you don't need. And also zoom in a little bit. You don't need that cutting grid on that panel. Click on that. It's not going to show anything because it's too narrow. But here for the door, you don't need that cutting grid here. Click on that. You see, obviously, that part of the cutting grid has been removed. Then do the same thing when you have this small panel right there. Just make sure you actually click on that. And then move to the center of the wall again, the door again. Okay, don't need that one. So then you don't need this small piece. And then you don't need this one. After do that, click on modify. Then what you realize is it did actually remove all the segments that you don't need. See that? Okay. Okay. So, however, right? However, I would like to remind you, okay, also is when you actually have a current grid in place, in this case, what we did previously is subtract the ones we don't need, okay? So, but in case you do want to have a current grid on this panel for some reason, that doesn't really matter what reason that is, how do you actually add that subtracted current grid back? That becomes the question, right? How do you actually get this current grid back? You have already got a current grid in place, okay? I would strongly encourage you to remember this, right? When you have a current grid in place, when you're trying to add a segment back to the current grid, you're not supposed to do another current grid, okay? Because that's gonna cause an overlap of two current grid at the same place. What you need to do is actually go ahead and click on that current grid itself and say, I would like to add a segment back. So click on that, it will add that segment back, okay? You're not trying to place another current grid where you already have a current grid. You can't do that. That will give you two current grids that are overlapping with each other, okay? So again, let's subtract that door section here, okay? Now, some of you probably remember, okay, some of you probably remember, not only we have this bottom current grid here, we also had current grid up top on top of the door. That is supposed to be where the height of the door is, right? That's 7 feet tall door. We have a 3 by 7 feet door. So the current grid on the door here is supposed to be 7 feet above ground, okay? So then what you need to do is we need to add this segment here. In this case, we're gonna actually go ahead and go to current grid again. But this time, remember the difference between those top current grids with the bottom current grids is for the bottom current grids, for the majority of the panels we do have a current grid, so we'll only subtract a few of it. So that's why you place all the current grid at a one time first, then you subtract. In this case, we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 doors. You literally only have 4 segments at the top. So you don't really want to place all segments of your current grid. Instead, you only want to place maybe just one segment at a time. Okay, so that's what I would recommend you do. So instead of placing the current grids across the whole panel, what you need to do is actually place only one segment. So let's do one segment on top of this door here first. Okay, so the location of this current grid is supposed to be, okay, as you see here, supposed to be 7 feet above ground. Okay, so let's change that dimension. Move that blue down, drag that blue down to finished floor, and click on that dimension, change that to 7 feet. That's the door height, okay? And it's 2 foot and 8 inches from the top. Now, I have to place that current grid, okay? Now you have one door completed with all current grids placed. However, how do I add the current grid here? Okay, how do I add a current grid here? What do you think I should do? Should I go ahead and place another current grid? Yes or no? Any suggestions here? Um, let's see. Maybe just call anyone. Okay. Um, anyone wants to help out? What should I do here? If I would like to do the same thing for this door here, for this door here, and for that door here, should I go ahead and click on the current grid and do another current grid individually on this door here, and that door here, or we have some other ways of doing it? Anyone can help? Perfect. Okay. Everyone, you got it right. Okay. Click on that current grid you just placed. Add a segments, right? We just need to add one segments here and add one segments here, add one segments here. Exactly right. Great. Okay. So we'll get the idea, right? You really don't need to place another new current grid. All you have to do is just add or remove segments because they are at the same height. So technically speaking, they belong to the same current grid. It's just add or move, segments. So towards this point of time, we have completed all the current grid, okay, all the current grid for the first section of our current wall. So we're really good to go. So let's go to our 3D model. Go to our 3D view. As you see here, everything looks great. I would say it looks great, right? You have all the edges, all the current grids laid out, okay? But the current grids, as I said, they are barely reference lines. they don't really exist in real life, right? You don't really see those curtain grid. You see the moulins. So our last step for this curtain wall is apply those curtain moulins wherever we have a curtain grid. So how does that work? It's really simple, right? Go ahead and go to your architectural tab, go to the modify panel, build panel, look at molding, which is next to the curtain grid command, which is called curtain wall molding. So click on that. You'll notice that the default curtain wall molding is a type called rectangular molding with 2.5 inch by 5 inch, right? The 2.5 inch is its thickness, and 5 inch is its width. Okay, so that's the modeling we're going to use. Now, what we need to do is we need to apply, okay, moulins anywhere we have curtain grids. So we say all grid line will be applied with a curtain grid, a molding. So click on that all grid line option here, and then move your mouse on top of that whole curtain wall itself. It will highlight all the grid lines on that curtain wall. Then click on once, then click on modify. So now you see, okay, now you see all the moulins will be placed in the place where you have a curtain grid, and the whole curtain wall for a storefront system is completed, except, okay, okay, it's another except is we still need to turn, think about a way to turn those door into an actual door, not just a piece of glass, because it can't get through the piece of glass. You need to actually turn those places into actual doors. Okay, that's not one thing we need to talk about in just a second. But at this point in time, take a look at your current wall system you have done so far, and trying to figure out, do you recall all the steps we go through? Okay, how do we actually determine locations of the curtain grid, and how we actually utilize the door location to determine the location or actually the separation of those small panels, etc. Okay, how do we actually apply on the bottom curtain grid? How do we apply the top of curtain grid? And how do we actually add or remove segments on the same curtain grid, etc., etc. So those are the little techniques you have learned so far in this session. And now let's go back to the last thing, right? How do you turn actually a panel into an actual door? That's the kind of question we need to ask ourselves, right? So what I we need to do is actually highlight this panel. We need to actually replace this panel, this panel, and that panel into an actual curtain door. Okay, into an actual curtain door. So how do we actually place a curtain door? Instead of actually trying to choose this panel directly, you won't be able to, right? Okay, so you're gonna have a regular door is being placed when you actually choose the door command and place that door on the wall. That's a regular door. So how does that work? So let's say we go to finish floor, okay? So pretend that we have a door somewhere on the wall, right? Let's say I have a door, just throw a door, and they can just open a door right there, okay? No problem, okay? That's a door. But, okay, can you place a door where you have a curtain wall? You can. The reason for that is a curtain wall is a very special type of wall. You cannot simply put a door in the curtain wall. That's not the way it works. Okay, it's a different type of wall, so it needs a different type of door. So let's actually delete that door we just placed. So place a door or regular door on a regular wall is very simple. However, place a curtain door is fairly different. So what we need to do is we need to replace this panel into a door, not trying to place another door into where you already have a panel. So in order to actually replace the panel, what you need to do is actually first you have to select the panel. But as you see here, when I move my mouse and try to click on this thing, you actually highlight the whole piece of glass, not that individual panel. So which is kind of tricky. So what we're gonna do, you move your mouse towards where you want to, select that panel, but don't click anything yet. Just move your mouse on top of it. And what we need to do is actually use our magic key, which is called a tab key, right? So move your mouse on top of that where you want to select the panel, and the tab key was, okay, it doesn't do anything. tab key again. Now you see that panel being highlighted. So try, it depends on where your mouse is. You may try it twice or 3 times or 4 times, but regardless, you will know when you actually see the panel being selected because it will be highlighted in the bluish color on the edge. So that's when you pick up that, okay, panel. Now, I probably have an issue of edit type. Again, happened again. I don't know why, what happened there. But what you need to do is you need to replace that with a door. Okay, so what we need to do is actually, at this point of time, I really don't have a way to actually replace this thing into, okay, a door. But what need to be, if you can do it, let's see, flash, what I can do. Okay, I really don't understand what is going on here. The panel is not showing up at all. Oh, it's actually here. Never mind, actually showed up, but on a different screen. All right, perfect. Okay, so let me go back one more step, just in case you didn't catch me. Okay, what happened here is I'm trying to select this panel, okay, not the whole wall, just this particular panel. So I move my mouse somewhere it's close to the panel. I use my tab key once, doesn't do anything. Again, now I see that panel being highlighted. I click on that panel, and then I click on edit type, okay? Once I click on edit type, what I need you to do is this, right? The panel is no longer a panel. It's supposed to be a door, okay? It's supposed to be a door. So in this case, what you need to do is actually, we need to load a door. So at this point of time, it's just a panel. So then what we need to do is go ahead and go to load. Okay, click on the load. All right. So if we click on load, what we need to go back to is the door folder. Okay, so let's go back 2 more steps. Previously, we were in the structural framing folder. That's why. Now let's go to the doors. Okay, see the doors right there. Double click on the doors. Okay, so you can only use certain type of door in a curtain wall system. So we're gonna choose the door curtain wall single glass door. Okay, so that's the door we're gonna use. It's a curtain door. Okay, it's a single glass curtain door. And somebody may ask, well, why does this door? What doesn't this door actually give you a size? Well, the question is, the size of this door, this type of door, is determined by the panel it is trying to be replaced. Okay, so however, how wide the panel is, then how wide your door will be. So the door is not determined by the door itself, it's determined by the panel you want to replace with. So choose that single glass door that it become actually a single glass door. Okay, so then click on OK and don't do anything. Now all of a sudden that panel becomes a door. Okay, so do we have any questions there? Do you know how to actually do the curtain door now? Any questions? So if you have a question, please raise your hand. I can show you guys again in case you need it. Are we all clear about this curtain door thing? How do you actually place a curtain door? So technically speaking, it's not actually place a curtain door. It's mostly like replace a panel with a curtain door. Okay. So let's try that again. Okay. Try that again. Choose a different panel here. Okay. Now, first step, move your mouse to where the panel is, which is the panel you want to replace with a door. Hit your tab key. First time may not work at all. Second time, maybe third time, it does highlight that curtain panel. And choose that. And click on edit type. So this time, because we already have loaded that door, so that door is supposed to be there. So I'm going to choose the curtain wall single glass door instead, right? I'll click on OK. So I place that door in place. Okay. Now you probably notice, okay, on our joins, If you go to the floor plan A1.1, you have the door opening towards a specific area or direction. So when you have actually a door like this, for any doors, we have a couple of descriptions there. Okay, first thing we need to determine is this door in swing or out of swing? In swing, out of swing means does the door swing out or swing inside, right? So this is obviously an out of swing door. Then you will say, is this the door left swing or right swing? Okay, it depends on which hand do you use to open this door will be more natural. So in this case, you would not use your left hand to open the door because if you use left hand, it usually goes this way, right? You will use the right hand to open the door. So it becomes a right swing, out swing door. Okay, so that's how you actually determine the swing and the side of the door. So in this case, we have the door the way it is this way. So it's a right out swing door, but on our model, what exactly it is, if you go to your floor plan, it looks like, this is actually an in-swing door. So we need to actually flip it, right? How do you flip the door? So once you have the door in place, when you're trying to flip it, all you have to do is choose the door itself, and you will see a pair, okay, of flip control vertically and horizontally. So try all those. See how that works, right? See that? Okay, right? So in our case, this is the right swing we want to have, right? It's an out swing, it's a right swing door. Okay, same thing with this one, right? It's supposed to be this way. Okay, so that is what we want to do today. Okay, just show you how you're supposed to create this particular curtain wall system, how to lay out, okay, the actual, how to lay out the actual curtain grids, how to actually put the mullions on, how to replace a curtain panel with a door. So by the way, let's go back to our issue we haven't resolved previously. I said the piece of glass really is supposed to be in the middle. Okay, so let's see if we actually can get that fixed. Okay, so when you look at the curtain wall system, the glass is not actually being selected. So there's nothing to do with the curtain wall as a whole. It's really that little piece of glass you're trying to select. Again, what I was suggesting is, you know what, to select the glass, you need to move your mouse on top of the curtain wall and hit tab key until you highlight that piece of glass. Okay. So when you have a glass selected, you click on edit type. So what you need to do is see that offsets right there? Get rid of that offsets. Okay. Because it's a system, it's a type of property. So any glasses using this type of curtain wall system will be um, revised accordingly. So if you change the offsets of this particular section of the curtain glass, everything else is going to follow through. Okay, so do you see that? Now the glass is being moved to the center of the wall instead of to the top part of the wall. Okay, and you also see that only this section of the glass gets revised, but also all the other sections of the glasses which use the same type of glass will be removed, changed as well, because we are changing a type property, not an element property. Okay, so that when you actually go to 3D view now, doesn't change the location of the door or the wall, it just changes where the glasses is. Okay, so that's all we have today in terms of placing the component. So a little quick recap what we did today, right? We placed this stretchable framing component which we have left from last session, which is this hollow stretchable steel, which is 6x6 by 516 on top of the curtain wall, and we placed the curtain wall system itself. We started by putting those reference lines, right, to locate where the curtain was supposed to be. Then we draw the piece of glass. Then we lay out the curtain grids to separate those panels into subsections. Then we apply the curtain moldings on top of the curtain grids. Then we place the panels where it's supposed to be a door instead of like a piece of glass, right? So any questions? I think we can actually unmute you guys to ask questions. Okay. Questions?
Yeah. When will you have the recording available?
That will be put online probably this evening.
Okay.
Okay. But overall, do you see any particular challenges there, or do you simply just because I go too fast, or actually I think the speed is okay?
Well, sometimes because I don't have two screens,
Okay,
because the
I see what you're
notification
saying.
it goes back and forth. So
Okay,
I'm behind on that. Because
okay,
I'm looking on my phone and I'm looking on my computer, and
I see.
it's difficult.
Okay, yeah, understandable. That's kind of reason why we're doing this anyway. Okay. Any other folks have any question there? Well, following through, okay. Okay, so I will make this video available. Well, actually, this video is already available online as well because the original YouTube video also has um, have this particular session there, so you can check either one. Okay, so I'm going to once we finish the class today, the recording is supposed to be available, but I need to upload that to our Canvas um, through the YouTube channel, and it takes a little bit of time for them to actually to look at the content and review it, and actually be able to publish the content. So I would say most likely it's going to be uploaded this evening. Okay. All right. So if you do not have any question, I think we can actually wrap up today. Okay. Again, please try your best to get your device ready, and also try your best to attend those class sessions. Although you have the recordings, but going through that together with me, it will be a little bit easier for you to grasp the idea behind it. Okay. And again, also a dual screen would be very helpful. If you do not have a dual screen, maybe two devices will be also helpful as well. Okay. So if you guys do not have any further questions, I'm gonna stop recording now. Okay.